Hey guys, Robert here, and today I have first time creator panel in a while. How do you say it? Fred Van Lent, right?
We usually say Van Lente.
Lenti. I was wondering if it was either Van Lent or Van Lenti, so 50-50 shot. But yeah, I've mentioned it before, and we talked about it off screen, but I'll mention it again. I actually attempted to have Fred on my show a couple years ago. We did a recording on Skype. Disaster. I had my audio on my end. He had audio was his end. I tried to edit them together. It was too monotonous. It was like, ugh. So because I was doing a Marvel Zombies retrospective is why I was doing that. But so I trashed the whole thing. But I saw you on Word Balloon recently, and I thought I'll reach out to him again. And you have a crowdfunded comic. We'll be getting to that towards the end that you have going on. So what better way to promote it? But let's talk about how did you get your start into comics specifically?
Well, I went to college at Syracuse University and ended up joining the comic book club, which ironically was founded by someone who went to my high school.
Oh, that's ironic.
Weird coincidence. Particularly since I come from Chagrin Falls, Ohio, which is this tiny town outside of Cleveland, near Syracuse. And I just piled around with a bunch of comic artists, and I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I really loved how they brought my words to life in such an immediate way. And we all moved out together after college here to New York to break into the industry, which 3/4 of us did in various ways and various paths. Ohio is too real. That's why.
I know. Yep.
Nerd, I appreciate the void of confidence, but yeah,
she's a hoot. Nerdette's a hoot.
But you want to escape in fantasy. That's what Ohio is good for.
Right.
And so one of the people I moved out with was Ryan Dunleavy, who we'll be talking about in a bit.
Right.
And another person I moved out with was my buddy Steve Ellis. He had actually gotten his first Marvel work while he was still an undergraduate. That's how good he was.
Oh.
He's a year ahead of me. He was doing Iron Man or a Spider-Woman, actually, series, the Marvel Secret Wars Spider-Woman. I forget.
Right.
One that with the black, the Venom-esque costume.
Oh yeah, that one. The Julia Carpenter.
Julia Carpenter was her name.
Yeah.
Julia Carpenter.
That was the one.
Written by Roy Thomas's wife, actually.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so he and I did an indie comic called The Silencers.
It was which I saw about that on Amazon. Let me get that just to show it off.
Yes, there's a brand new. I should say that The Silencers, which is a super noir comic about a bunch of superpowered mob enforcers who have to go independent when the mafia family they work for gets wiped out, and they don't really become heroes, but they're crooked in a different direction, we like to say. And
there we go.
A brand new that's the Dark Horse edition that came out about a decade ago. This, if you are into your comic book store, this is the brand new. This is the new version that came out last summer.
That is nice. That is nice.
Cover by our good friends at Comic Experience, and they just did a gorgeous job with it. So I highly recommend that. Anyway,
nice, right?
Marvel got a hold of that and hired me to pitch. They were revamping this. So Marvel.com had this. This was the early days of corporate internet, and they decided to run a contest on the site as to what Marvel character would be revamped. And the Spider-Man villain, the Scorpion, was chosen. And I don't think the fans really knew what they were getting into by voting for it, based on the reaction to the fact that Scorpion was no longer going to be Mac Gargan, underhanded PI, but he's going to be a teenage S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. But people seem to like the character, and
I love her.
Yeah, and she recently made her TV debut in 2021.
Nice.
On the MODOK, the Marvel's MODOK show.
Yes, that show. Which wasn't that based off of some work you done?
A little bit, yeah. Bits and pieces of it were based on a couple things I did, but it was great. It's a terrific show, and highly recommend people check it out. But Carmilla shows up.
If we can focus on her a little bit, we can gradually emphasize each other. With Carmilla, though, interesting character. In fact, again, let me load that one up too. But yeah, interesting character as the new Scorpion, because by that point, Gargan had become Venom by that point, right? Or was that? Yeah.
Yes? Question mark. Yes.
Yes. 'Cause
Exclamation
I know
point.
he became Venom. I just don't know if that was at the same time.
Yeah. In fact, we did a story where he came after her as
As
Venom
Venom,
because he
right?
was annoyed that she took his original supervillain name, even though he
Yep.
wasn't using it at the time.
Yep. Here it is. So I'll share this. But yeah, and now originally you had a different origin, like her parentage in mind. If I recall, it was going to be
Yes.
Viper and Silver Samurai.
Yes, that was my original pitch. The writer, they actually rejected my pitch at first, but then they ended up parting ways with the writer they actually chose, and then they hired me, but they needed a script done very quickly, but they told me I couldn't use
There she is.
I couldn't use there she is. That's our gal.
Yep.
That artwork is by James Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Most famous to comics fans as the Fables cover artist.
Right. And it definitely reminds me of Fables just looking at it.
I believe this is his only Marvel cover work.
Oh.
This 6 issues of Amazing Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw his work at the Guillermo del Toro retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art. He's done some posters for Pinocchio.
Right.
And I was like, hey, I know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But So initially the idea was that Viper, who's this villain in Silver Samurai, who was her bodyguard, long-standing Marvel villains, got drunk in March for one night, and Scorpion was the result. But they said you couldn't use. They wouldn't let me use. This happens a lot in mainstream comics. They wouldn't use Viper, Silver Samurai because they were in Mark Millar's Wolverine at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know. I remember Silver Samurai was. I'm not sure about Viper. No, they were in Secret Warriors also, but that was after what you were doing.
Yeah, that was
hard to remember. It's hard to remember who was where.
But they gave me AIM, and so I created not just Carmilla in that series, but Monica Rappaccini.
Oh, love her! I love her.
Who was the scientist supreme? Who weirdly has become much, absolutely hands down my most used character.
Oh, she was in the Avengers game.
She's in the Avengers game. She was also in the MODOK's
right
TV show, obviously.
And now there's also the connection with her and Bruce. Now, if I remember right, did you tease that? Was that Peter David who teased that? I keep forgetting who initially teased that.
So yeah, no, that was Peter David.
Right.
He did a Hulk bit for House of M.
Right.
Where it was set up that Monica and Banner were basically Mark Panicia, the editor who hired me to the Scorpion, loved the Scorpion and was trying to figure out some way to make people like her. And her, like to say, present company accepted, the masses of Marvel fandom to like her. So they were desperately trying to figure out ways to like connect her to bigger Marvel characters. And so the only title he was editing at the time was the Hulk. So everything was named through Hulk. And yeah, so Peter David, I'm sure being bullied into it by Mark, had it revealed that Monica and David and Bruce Banner were childhood, or excuse me, college, like if not sweethearts, then friends with benefits or whatever.
Yep.
To which led to them trying to be like
maybe possibly.
Right. It's actually Carmilla Banner. She's the daughter of the Hulk. And I was like, yeah,
well, it's been vague ever since, at least. So at least it's not a definitive, but possible.
I was like, okay. And then she kind of like appeared sporadically in I think the only person to write her other than me and significantly was Christos Gage.
Greg Pak used her at the end of his Incredible Hulks. She arrived. Monica, I meant. Monica, not Carmilla.
No, sorry, I'm now talking about Carmilla. Monica in a million places.
Right, yeah, but yeah, Carmilla. Yeah, Christos Gage. And you had used her in the Gauntlet for Spider-Man. And that was the first time. That was you. I said, yeah, you had. That's what I said. You had.
Yeah, no, Christos Gage used them in the Avengers Initiative.
Right. And then, but after that, aside from one or two guest appearances in the Avengers second volume, she hasn't appeared since. I mean, at least she's not dead, but such a shame. A good character that I think had a lot of potential. I love seeing her in the Captain Universe X-23 book.
Right.
That she was in that one with
And who wrote that one?
yeah, forgot who wrote it.
Might have been Mark Sumerak. I don't remember.
Something like that. I liked her appearance there. Especially loved how when X-23 is begging her, she's just like, "Hey, where you going? Wait, come back!" Because X-23 is right behind her. Like, she got away. Just cute stuff like that. I like, but again, very good character. But of course, once Mac Gargan became Scorpion properly, I don't think they've ever resolved what happened to her after that.
Yeah, I that was sort of the basis of the issue we did with her in Amazing Spider-Man,
Right.
But yeah, beyond that, it she didn't really have a home, and she's a super fun character, but her creation was pretty weird.
Right, but yeah, so
by which it came about. So
right.
she
So
didn't really
after
have a home.
that, I'm sorry. So after that, what did that lead into then? After introducing her in Amazing Fantasy.
Well, because of the Silencers, which is a supervillain book, I did a book called MODOK's 11, which was like, except again, they wouldn't let me use Viper and Silver Samurai and Scorpion. I was like, I love the old supervillain team, so I wanted to do a heist with Dr. Doom and Sabretooth and Magneto, and they're like, you can't use Dr. Doom, you can't use Sabretooth. So they knocked down all of my villains that I had on my wish list, but the only one they would let me use was MODOK. The big floating head guy who I think had to appear in Quantum Mania.
Yep.
And so I sort of leaned into that and was like, okay, well, we'll make it a thing. MODOK is the highest tier villain on a team of loser supervillains who get together for one last big heist. The one last big heist being a very, venerable subgenre.
Right.
And people really liked it, the people who bought it. And clearly the showrunners, the MODOK show, did it. Jordan Blum, who was one of the co-showrunners, told me that they wanted to do sort of more. They would have liked to have done a slightly more straight up adaptation of MODOK's 11, except that half of the MODOK's 11 team, Rocket Racer, Puma, Chameleon, and so on, they're all Spider-Man characters. They are still owned by Sony, so Marvel proper can't really touch them without a note from Mama Sony.
Right.
So, but Patton Oswalt himself actually wrote the kind of heist episode of MODOK, and it's terrific. It was really and I got a little shout out in the show. I'm the elementary school in the show is named after me.
Oh, nice, definitely.
But then the thing that really put me on the map was Incredible Hercules.
Hercules was Greg Pak. Yes, that was definitely a big one. You both worked on him for how long was it?
2 to 3 years, something like that.
Yeah. And you did Chaos War, and first of all, that was a very interesting event. How was it working on that?
It was fun. Greg and I very early on mapped out a whole big storyline epic for Hercules, and then we got caught up in sort of the third act. At the first and sort of the second acts, went across very well, but then sales started to slip a little bit. So then we caught up in the Marvel thing of shouldn't single Marvel out.
Right.
Everybody does it, of like the series of mini series. So it got kind of bifurcated.
Right.
And Chaos War was the last story arc of Incredible Hercules.
Right. But that
for some reason confuses people.
Right, because that was an interesting story. Although it was one of those stories where the dead come back or stuff with death and everything. Sure. And then the end, you'll be Zeus is in charge. But it felt like, now you said that was the last arc, so Greg seemed to work a little bit with that in the Incredible Hulks, but then it felt like
I think that was technically a Chaos War tie-in.
Oh no, but there was the aftermath where Hulk goes to Zeus, and Zeus just beats the shit out of him.
Right. But and then we ended up doing they wanted us to do a sequel series called Herc,
which I saw also on here.
That was fun, but I think the Incredible Hercules fans kind of were not like,
Right. Yeah, right here.
We're not as into it.
Because it was supposed to be
But
he lost his powers and all that.
yeah, so we depowered him in the end of Chaos War just because we were trying to figure out, okay, well, what would maybe a mortal god would be interesting? A guy who used to be a god and is now just some dude. And it
Right.
turned out no one agreed with us.
Oh, well, that
Although
happened.
I guess it lasted like 9 issues. It wasn't like a
Right.
total disaster.
I mean, enough to get a good, decent trade out of it.
2, in fact.
Right.
Oh,
This is the complete version.
Cool.
This is the complete version. But you also are known for picking up from Robert Kirkman with Marvel Zombies.
Yes.
So yeah, and
I did.
how did you get that gig? First of all,
I got most of my gigs at Marvel because no one else wanted them. Like and I guess that sounds bitter, but it really isn't, because I actually really like the more obscure characters and I like that stuff. And I like a challenge, probably a little too much. But so the problem was that the first 2 Marvel Zombies that Kirkman did that had, Captain America and Wolverine and Spider-Man and all your favorites eating everybody.
Yep.
Sold a stupid amount of comics, but the higher ups, don't forget this is before the Disney sale.
Right. This is well before the Disney sale.
So the higher ups absolutely hated them with the passion of a million burning suns. So because they were terrified that because they kind of, and by higher ups I mean way higher ups.
Right. Those who aren't connected to the comic, they're just the ones looking down at the comics.
Exactly. So they were worried that they would be ruining the brand if, little Timmy goes crying to mommy because this Spider-Man is eating Aunt May's face off in the comic.
They have what ifs and everything. What made them think that people would think this is real canon?
Well, I'm not complaining because this led to my best-selling comic ever. So
right.
It all worked out for me.
Right.
But basically they said, you cannot have any of the big marquee characters that may be movies or currently movies with Marvel Zombies. So no Wolverine, no X-Men, no Spider-Man, nothing. Nothing.
Deadpool. You would have Deadpool or Headpool. Oh,
that
boy,
was
did that
a
break
very
up.
weird period in the mid-aughts where no one cared about Deadpool.
Yeah.
Did not have a title.
Exactly.
So, but Deadpool was also super violent, so they didn't really care. Like,
right.
It was very much in the Deadpool vein to have him show up in Marvel Zombies. Anyway.
Right.
So
right.
I decided I love Machine Man, so I put Machine Man as the hero of Marvel Zombies 3 and did kind of an action horror story, and people dug it.
Yep, and that was set in the Zombies universe, set in between 1 and 2, but it's mostly in the mainline universe. I mean,
right? Because that was the big thing. We were like, okay, well, we don't have any marquee characters, so we are going to the Marvel universe. Ooga booga.
Yep, and loved what you did with Shikasta and all that, and then you immediately led right into the second miniseries where you brought back the Midnight Suns.
That's right. I love the old monster characters. Those are mostly 70s monster characters, so that's what I like. Son of Satan.
Yep.
Kale from Man Thing himself, Morbius, all those guys. I got Morbi with it.
Yep. It's Morbin time.
And I kind of like that even more than Marvel Zombies. I think that's my personal favorite because I like involving with actual voodoo zombies and stuff. And I think it's a ton of fun. Oh,
yeah. And then, did you ever expect Headpool to take off the way he did?
No. By that point, Deadpool had gotten his own series,
right?
Hit, and then they gave him his own comic, which I thought was sort of
right.
So that was fun.
Then of course that led into Marvel Zombies Return, where you actually tied back into where Kirkman left off.
Exactly. But Marvel Zombies Return is technically Marvel Zombies 3.
Right. Technically. But you also worked with
and it's me and a bunch of other creators, a lot of zombie novelists like Jonathan Mayberry and Dave Wellington.
Seth Graham-Smith.
Yep, who did Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, who's screenwriter and director. We did a bunch of different takes, a bunch of one shots. I think because it was like, if I remember correctly, they all came out in 1 month, and
something like that
series.
Yep.
and as execs have a tendency to, they somehow forgot. No, they didn't want Hulk and zombies. They changed their mind.
They changed their mind. And but of course, then you have the infamous your issue. You took the ball and ran with that with Spidey. Just all that stuff is just like so horrific. And then Sandman totally kills him by blowing him up. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, Nick Dragata crushed it on that one. Nick Dragata.
Yep, right here
is that's I'm pretty proud of that. Of all my Spider-Man stuff, that's top 3 right there.
Oh yeah, and I love that. Just like
that's right, he rips his own skin off. That's right.
Yep, but what made you decide when you ended it to make it be they're stuck in this ever infinite loop? Whatever made you decide to go with that route?
It's not an infinite loop, though, right? It just circles back to the beginning of the series, where originally Millar wanted to have it be Superman. A zombie Superman showed up, and they were like, let's not get sued. And they made it into the Century. So then I had a whole Justice League made up of Marvel.
Oh, I love that. I love that, the Justice League. But I'm saying it is kind of a loop because it went back to the beginning, and we know it's eventually going to lead back here. So
right. I think they've continued it since then. So
they use different zombies. It's not the gospel. They have never used the gospel zombies after this.
Interesting. Okay, fair enough.
Yep, and then of course you wrapped it up with Marvel Zombies 5.
You wanted me to bring Machine Man back, and the editor really wanted to put in Howard the Duck, and I love Howard the Duck, so I was like, why not?
Yep, but I especially liked how you also brought in what's her name? What's the girl's name? I'm trying to remember her name.
Hurricane. That Hurricane, was from one of the first things I did at Marvel was they did this whole Marvel Westerns one shot, and Jeff Parker and Tom Coker did this terrific story about Hurricane, who was a villain. I think he was a Two-Gun Kid villain.
Right.
And they just did a lovely story. And so I was like, I like that story. I'm going to continue it.
Yep. And you brought the daughter and all that. And then how she became one of the other main characters with Howard and Machine Man and everything. And then, you decided to go with different type of zombies based off of different movies. You have the Possessed. You have which is the Raimi. You have the one based off of Dead Alive, all of that. What was your favorite issue in all of this one?
That's a good question. I really liked what Kano, who had health issues and had to leave the series, which was a huge bummer. I love working with him. Well, I did end up working with him at Valiant, so that was good.
Right.
I really loved the Kill Raven one.
Right.
The Marsh fighting the Martians.
Right. Yep.
Mostly just because I love what Kano did with the art on that.
Definitely very good indeed. And then it just ends at the end with they're in our world and everyone's completely normal. Hold me. Stuff like that. That was. Oh, I'm trying to get to that page. Hold on.
I got Frank Brunner, co-creator of Howard the Duck, to do a Howard the Duck, essentially a commission of a non-existent Marvel team-up page.
Which you made the joke of, it's a final issue, but someone slipped in a curse word and pulped.
That's right.
Which to be fair, not surprised on that happening. That would happen, but again, very interesting. But this was you did one more actually. Then you came back and did Marvel Zombies Halloween.
That was a very sweet book.
It was just. The fact that this is Kitty, but we really don't know that right away off the bat.
Spoilers! No, it's all right.
Yeah, it's how old, But yeah, and then she just wants to give her kid a good Halloween, and her son is her and Colossus's kid. Again, so much, but I also loved what you did with Mephisto. Just so interesting, this idea that he's just like, hey, I can't do any good if everyone's dead.
Yeah, it's that was a super fun bit. It was fun to write Kitty again, since I did the Wolverine YA book, Wolverine Class, where she was a major character. So it was fun to write her again.
But this was your last word on the Marvel Zombies, pretty much then.
Thus far.
Yep. And then you said you worked on Spider-Man. And how was it working on the old webhead?
Well, I mean, it was really like a bucket list item crossed off, because he was my guy from being a kid, and I got to do some really kick-ass, awesome stories with him. It was really fun to do the webheads and go into the summits and hang out with Mark Waid, and and Zeb
Right.
Wells and all those guys, Dan Slott. We all got
Right.
along really well, and it was a really great writers' room.
Now, eventually, you would. Were there any other major highlights on Marvel before you moved on? I'm trying to think about what are ones that were big highlights.
I really probably my favorite thing I did, and certainly something that does come up quite a lot, is the Taskmaster miniseries I did with
Oh yes.
Palo. That was super fun. That was
Mhm.
probably one of my favorite personal stories I've ever done.
Mhm.
I did a lot of things in Marvel.
Yeah, you did a lot. You did a lot. I noticed.
Working with Giri Haru, who are fantastic ladies. I just remember the artists I love working with. I love working with Giri Haru, who I actually got to meet.
Mhm.
They never come to the United States. They're two Japanese ladies who are in Tokyo, and they're English. I don't think they have any.
Right.
I got to meet them in New York Comic Con. They're super nice. They've blown up. They've done Squirrel Girl, and
Right. There's the Taskmaster
Superman
book.
Smashes the Klan. They did with
that group. Yes, they also did the Avatar books. The Avatar Last Airbender book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I had a feeling. I was told. I'm told there was a team. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Now you just confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but eventually, what led to you moving on from Marvel?
Well, there was a market downsizing of the comics arena, and they did not renew my exclusive contract. And I was always kind of the redheaded stepson over there, and that I kind of came in through the, unfortunately, you get branded at these companies really early on about your initial, work. And my first thing was this insane Scorpion project that everybody was confused by. And really, I just managed to claw my way through with, by my fingernails. And the biggest thing I ever would, and I did Marvel Zombies and Incredible Hercules, but if you don't have powerful people there supporting you in that kind of a power structure, you tend to get overlooked. And ultimately,
understandable.
At the end of sort of the, what happens is your assignments sort of get dwindle in terms of importance. They shut down the webheads and gave Amazing Spider-Man to Dan solely, which I don't begrudge him at all.
Oh yeah, he lasted he had the longest Spider-Man run, if I recall now.
Well, right, unless you count Bendis.
If you count Bendis, yeah, but I'm talking main Spider-Man, not
sure. Yeah, his was longer than Stan's.
Yeah, if I recall right. Yeah, if I recall right, it was.
I believe it.
Because go from 600 to 700 to 800. I think is what he had done. He worked on the 600, but he definitely did 700 to 800 with some help from Christos Gage. So it wasn't in a row.
Well, and what didn't help is that I was doing a comic with the oft-mentioned Mr. Ryan Dunleavy called, at the time it was called Comic Book Comics, ended up being the Comic Book History of Comics. And we did a whole issue on lawsuits. And one of the lawsuits we prominently featured was the 1980s. It wasn't even technically a lawsuit, actually. It was a threatened lawsuit of Jack Kirby trying to get his art back from comics. And
that probably didn't help.
Yes, many of the same suits who did not want Spider-Man to be in Marvel Zombies really blew a gasket on that one. I think that because at the time, recency bias, that's when the Kirbys were actually suing.
Oh no, that would not have helped at all.
So they were not big fans of mine. And I was not a big fan of theirs either. So it was
understandable. I mean, I know nowadays you have it be where Tom Scioli did the King, the Kirby graphic novel, and then later on right after that did the Fantastic Four Grand Design. So clearly, current regime is completely different.
Well, that's what happens when you settle out of court with the family, and there's no hope of being sued by them again.
Exactly, that too. But after you left Marvel, where did you move on to next? Was it Valiant, or was there anything in between?
I have worked since for Valiant, IDW, Dark Horse, Dynamite.
Right.
Comics for now, Archie.
Right.
I've done some stuff. I've talked about doing some stuff with Oni. I did Boom. I did run a Big Trouble in Little China with Boom.
You've been all over the place.
So the thing about working for Marvel is it does put you on the map as a comics writer, but at a certain point, it's a terminal job. It's hard unless they give you Avengers or solo Amazing Spider-Man or whatever. There's really no upward mobility from there. So I was sort of like, oh my God, Marvel let me go. I'm screwed. My life is over. My career is over.
Oh
And then you
no.
find out, oh no, actually, this whole new vista has opened up. You know,
I'm sorry. Just she loves it. My friend Nerdette loves to say this. Winter should be illegal.
well, good. Fair
Oh,
enough.
no argument.
I'll put in a good word.
No, I love the show off when she says that because I agree with her. It should be. But
you'll be feeling that way very much so tomorrow.
Definitely. But hold on, I just found the Archer and Armstrong. How was it working on that book?
I loved it. I'd never heard of it until Valiant asked me to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's become something that's been very popular.
Yep, you won an award for that, if I recall, didn't you?
Nominated.
Nominated.
As was the follow-up Ivar Time Walker, which was cool.
Right.
That's probably another one of my, up with Taskmaster, one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Right.
But yeah, it was great. I got the job because of Incredible Hercules. In fact, Tom Brevoort, the longtime editor at Marvel, told me that when they were talking about doing Incredible Hercules, he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like Archer and Armstrong. It's this big, strong guy and this little dude, and they have adventures and stuff." But Archer and Armstrong are a little bit different, and then Armstrong is a drunken 4,000-year-old immortal,
right,
strong man, and Archer was raised on a Christian fundamentalist compound to kill Armstrong.
Oh,
so it's an interesting. Oh my God, that hardcover is $141.
I think it is out of print. This particular one,
exactly. Yeah, French one I think is still in print.
Right.
I do a couple of printings over there. Yeah. So that was a great series.
Yep. And then now, of course, we'll bring up about your crowdfunding you have going on.
Sure.
Yep. Let me get right to it. No, that's not it. Hold on a sec. Because it's for trying to find it. Action Philosophers is what that's it is.
So Ryan Dunleavy and I, our first comic, in fact, we got a Xeric grant, a self-publishing grant to do it. Boom, there it is.
Yep. 20 days ago, people. You can go back it right now.
Chugging along. So this is the all real, all hilarious comics about the history's greatest thinkers. This is a comic that originally appeared in the mid-aughts in black and white. And through the magic of Kickstarter and our pals at Rocket Ship, thank you, Rocket Ship, we are bringing it out now in hardback and in color.
Right.
In 3 lovely volumes. And if you scroll down, you see some of the cool-ass swag you get.
Yep.
This is the middle part. So we got Rene Descartes. Everybody, all the kids love Descartes.
Descartes, yeah.
They're doing Rene Descartes TikToks. They talk about him on the socials. They love him. So this, yeah, and what's cool about this panel is what I love about this volume is it's a brand new story about someone who is, you might say she's not a philosopher, but I say to you, go to hell, because I like Mary Shelley, creator of Frankenstein, and she was the daughter of 2 very notorious philosophers. And I just love doing a story about the teen mom who invented sci-fi. So that is a brand new story in this Action Philosophers volume. That's Adam, Ryan and I, obviously. It's Ryan went to Syracuse with me.
Right.
Million comics together. Adam Gazowski, who colored the formerly black and white comic history of comics, is back. Yeah, we got Francis Bacon, we got Rene Descartes, we got Immanuel Kant, we got the aforementioned Mary Shelley. All your favorites, kids.
All your favorites. But yeah,
if we go down a little bit further, you got to see some of these awesome prints. I think they're on the thing. That's the first volume, right?
I saw the second volume too. There's the other volume too. So there's
you
both.
You can get the first volume with this Kickstarter. So fear not, do not suffer from FOMO. You can get the complete set.
Yep, I'm definitely at the very least. Back the completionist PDF version at the very least.
At the very least. Jeez, but if you go down, there's some cool prints, which I think. Yeah, so Friedrich Nietzsche, our first story ever.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of other ones that are great.
There's the completionist bundle right there, $48.
That's right, a steal, I say, a steal.
Definitely a steal.
Oh, so there's Plato, Karl Marx, and all sorts of cool like print pins. You know, the usual Kickstarter.
Definitely.
Swag.
Yeah, these all look very cool, very nice.
And we're giving away. We're selling the
Right.
Pledge original art from the series, and this is fun because Ryan has been pretty much a digital cartoonist since easily for a decade or more now. So,
yep,
we actually
and
have paper to give you.
yep, and it looks like yeah, you got 20 more left.
Yes, they're going fast from
Yep,
100 books.
yep. Oh, and hold on. Someone just sent me a tip. It says it's Nerdette, but little gag, someone does it in other people's names. So, but let me so I can share it. Let me go get it. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, this does look like a lot of fun. A lot of. I'm definitely going to back it as soon as I can.
It's
I am
all real.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and for a kind of stupid amount of money, you can actually put yourself in the. For $350, you can be in the Mary Shelley story. Maybe
oh,
it's
nice.
Monster. Request.
Yep. At least one person's done it. At least.
That's right, and we appreciate it.
Yep.
Every little bet's help for the stupidly low price. $350. You too can be in the Mary Shelley story. But yeah, Ryan and I've been doing these comics since 2000.
Yep. That's the tip right there, by the way. This is freaking cool. Thank you, Tristan, or whoever did it.
Much appreciated. Well, what's funny is, to bring it back to the beginning of our discussion, is Action Philosophers #1 came out on the same day as Amazing Fantasy #7, which was my first Marvel comic, and the first appearance of our beloved Scorpion.
Yep.
And because of the alphabet, they were racked next to each other. Action Philosophers.
Oh, that is so nice.
Except I had broken my ankle. So I could not go to the comic book store and see this for myself. So Ryan very nice sent me a photo of it. But yeah, it's like waiting for a bus. You try to break into comics for years, and then suddenly they both come at once. What are you gonna do?
Right. But yeah, so you have that going on. I mean, that looks pretty good. Also, you have a couple of novels I've noticed. Con Artists and Ted Dead Comedians. Talk a little bit about those.
Well, those are both fun murder mystery novels. I'd love to talk about my next novel.
Oh, what's that?
Which is coming out in March 28th. That is Never Sleep.
Never Sleep. All right.
That is if you go to...
is anyone on your site?
See the
there
cover?
It is. There it is.
Boom. Yeah, so that's available for pre-order right now. That is a historical thriller about the first female private detective in American history. This is a true story. Her name's Kate Warren. And she has to foil an assassination attempt against President-elect Abraham Lincoln on the eve of the Civil War. And what is complicating this is that while doing this, she has to train her younger protege, the second female private detective in American history, Hattie McLaughlin, and they initially do not.
Yep. Just one sec. We are all Albus, just less crazy. I hope. God, I hope. Hey, they're tipping me this stuff. I'm going to read their message.
There you go.
But yeah, this sounds like a very clever idea. Very
excited. It came out very well. You can pre-order it now on audiobook. It's from the great guys at Blackstone. It'll also be in hardcover March 28th. If you want to pre-order it, just go to fredvanlini.com and click on the cover, just as Robert did.
Yep. Also, I noticed this. There's you mentioned Jack Kirby before.
Yeah.
King Kirby.
Yes. It's not somewhat unrelated to my comic book history of comics. We did a dramatization of Kirby's life, and this is a free podcast. That the lovely folks you're seeing the photos of down there, that's the original New York cast.
Oh.
We actually recorded it when we did the play in 2014, but sort of a COVID pandemic lockdown activity. We turned it into a podcast with sound effects and original music by our pal, the great composer Bobby Cronin, and it is free. It is free, I say.
Yep, I see that.
You can get it on that website. However, you can also get it at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just type King Kirby into the search.
So how was it working on this? On this play?
It was fun. My wife's a playwright, and so I kind of she co-wrote it with me. I kind of was copying her when I started that. I started writing this play like in 2002, before I'd even really broken in as a comic book creator.
Oh, and they said they want a link for that. Let me put the link in the chat for anyone.
Um,
But yeah, you were saying. Go on. Sorry, you were saying.
yeah, and we did it. It was a big hit. We got a lovely New York Times review. Actually, if there is anyone listening to this who is in Kansas City,
I don't know if anyone who is, but if there are anyone or anyone who watches this later on.
But next month is Planet Comic Con, which is the Kansas City, Missouri show, and they will be doing the people who did King Kirby in last summer's Kansas City Theater Fringe Festival will be performing it at 6:00 Saturday night at Planet Comic Con, and I'll be there. I will be there. I'm attending the show. It's very exciting.
Yep. Oh wow, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. I'm just putting all the links in the chat, and I'll put it in the description as well. So, but for anyone who wants to look at it right now, but yeah, though, just again, you've just been working so much, so all over the map with comics, and the fact that, yeah, like you said, you started at Marvel, but then you've been able to go off and do your own things and everything. And
I don't.
Sorry, I just noticed these things here you mentioned, Right Wing and Cthulhu track.
So this is very early. This is pre-Action Philosophers, pre-Marvel Comics. For the SPX, we did this mini comic that was about a right-wing superhero, which was meant to be funny, but I think it's probably a little too.
These days, yeah.
These days, maybe the humor's on. But I am absolutely in love with the Cthulhu track, which is, if any of you remember, or they're still in print today, you can find them anywhere. The Jack Chick Christian track.
Yeah, the Jack. Those little
sex, drugs, rock and roll, Dungeons and Dragons, God knows what else. We did Steve Ellis and I did a Jack Chick style track, but for Cthulhu. So if you'll click on that, Robert.
Hold on. Let me do that right now. Oh, let's take a look.
Yeah, so.
I don't get it. I have it all. Fame, wealth, wonderful wife and kids. So why do I feel like something's missing from my life? Good morning, neighbor. Can I borrow some sugar? Sure, Mr. Wheatley. What are you reading? The Necronomicon. Ugh, that sounds religious. I always thought religion was a little fruity. Not at all, John. This book can change your life. It teaches that everything you've been told by everybody is a lie. Really? Even in school? Especially in school. Although you never hear it from any accredited science teacher, Earth was first settled billions of years ago by a race of loathsome beings from beyond space and time, known as the Old Ones. The Old Ones are, the Old Ones were, the Old Ones will ever be. And 2 Necronomicon 120 verse 3. Oh, wow.
It just keeps going from there.
Yeah, wow. That is amazing.
We had a good time with that. That gets dredged up on the internet and on Twitter every once in a while. William Gibson himself once tweeted it, and I was very.
Oh. I heard sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm in.
There you go. Very touching.
But yeah, seriously, this again, just so much of the work you've gone over, and it's sad I only own some of it, because I'll be honest, I was more of a DC guy, but the fact that your work was enough for me to buy it, because I'm very selective with my Marvel buying, says a lot about your quality of writing. And
well, it sounds like you'll soon be the happy recipient of Action Philosophers comics.
Definitely, I am definitely going to back the digital version at the very least. And if not, I may actually get one of the physical releases. You never know.
Problem.
Look at me! Look at my bookshelves here. I could put it on there somewhere.
You got room.
I definitely have room, but yeah, I mean, what else do you have going on? Any other works you've been working on that besides the Kickstarter that have been like a big standout, something you'd like to promote?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've mentioned the prose novel that's coming out in March.
Right.
I have had a very good time doing Jennifer Blood, which is a vigilante series, a crime series for Dynamite.
Oh, you did the Ninjets too, right?
Sorry?
You did the Ninjets as well, right?
I did. That was sort of technically a spin-off of Jennifer Blood. It's about a murder school for teenage girls. Totally wholesome stuff.
That's an interesting name.
But
hold on, let me just get
I'm working on the new series that's going to be coming out later this year.
Yep. There's Jennifer Blood right there.
Yep.
Yep. And I saw the Ninjetta. How do you say it's a Ninjets?
Yes, Ninjettes.
I find that interesting because there's a character I've been wanting to work on named Ninjata. So it's always just like, ooh, it's so close.
Hey man, I won't stop you. I don't own them, so
I know, I understand it. I'm just
I got
saying,
no dog in that fight.
I'm just saying it's singular and it's off by one letter.
There you go. We'll never catch you.
Yep, exactly. But wow, just look at that. That looks pretty fun.
But yeah, the last
Blood.
issue, it was 5-issue series. Last issue just came out last week, I want to say.
I think so. Yeah, I saw that when I was looking on Amazon. But yeah, it was Jennifer
we
Blood.
had a great time, and I did that book with Joe Cooper, who I did Magnus Robot Fighter with. We did the Comic History Basketball.
Oh, Magnus Robot Fighter! I love that book.
Yeah, that was a great time.
What is Jennifer Blood? If you don't mind my asking, I've heard of it, but I've never been aware of what it's about.
So Jennifer Blood was a character that Garth created like in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And she is essentially a mafia princess who adopts the persona of Jennifer Blood to get revenge on her uncles, who are mobsters who basically killed her father and ruined her family.
Right.
Al Ewing took over the book and then killed her off in the last series. And so when I was brought along to revive it, I was presented with a bit of a challenge. But as I said before, Robert, I like a challenge.
Right.
And so my series is the first series is called That's the First Issue. What you're looking at, the big photo there.
Right there.
That is of the very first series. It's called Bloodline. That's what the trade is called. And a new Jennifer Blood shows up. Seeing Goodfellas. So Jennifer Blood, I should point out, sorry, the sort of the hook is she's appears to be a kind of cliche suburban housewife who at night is leather clad vigilante. In my series, there's a town,
Bountiful, Utah,
that is ostensibly for the witness protection program. If you remember the ending of Goodfellas, where Ray Liotta's in the tract house being miserable. I'm seeing a town that's full of Ray Liotta's, except they're not miserable because they're still committing crimes. The allegedly dead Jennifer Blood shows up and starts murdering them, and so then the whole series is sort of a who is Jennifer Blood? Did she come back to life? Is this a different person? What's going on here? And they bring in Julietta Romeo, hit woman, to find her, and she becomes the sheriff of this town, kind of hilariously. Right. And Julietta Romeo just had her own one shot in December.
Ooh.
Which is also super fun. It's a murderous crime adaptation of William Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Nice. Now, one other thing you've worked on didn't you work on Cowboys and Aliens?
Yes, I wrote the graphic novel the movie's based on.
Yep. How was that? And what did you think about the movie? If you could be honest, if you could be brutally honest about it.
I didn't care for it.
Fair enough.
So Cowboys and Aliens was my first
can't zoom in anymore than that.
I turned in the script in 2001. The comic did not come out until 2009, I think.
6.
Oh, really? That late? Oh, geez. Okay.
That's what it says here. 2006.
Not right to me, but what do I know? Because God knows they didn't consult me on it after I turned the script in.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I had the first comic Steve and I did before The Silence was called Tranquility. And it was a science fiction series and got picked up by Platinum Studios to be done as a comic. And they asked me if they wanted me to do Cowboys and Aliens for them because they'd gone through 10 writers at that point. And the problem was they had this concept. They had done, Scott Rosenberg, head of Platinum, had done Men in Black, which was like Aliens plus, you want another genre mashup. And the problem was they could never really get beyond this idea that they were like, Ridley Scott / James Cameron type aliens, like xenomorph aliens. And that did not make for a very interesting story. It made for a very short story.
Right. Very obviously.
And so our version had a bit more of a Star Trek feel to it. There were alien characters or Native American characters.
Right, I see that here. I also see this controversy happen where they inflated the numbers, which kind of fast-tracked them into the movie along.
Yes, that was very much a thing.
Oh boy,
to my knowledge. But again, no one at no point was I ever consulted.
So you just did the script, turned it in,
and
but
then they rewrote. They had somebody, they had a very nice guy named Andrew Foley rewrite the whole thing. Again, without consulting me. And they, and the movie is, I do constantly find people who say they really enjoyed it. I think that's terrific.
Well, someone right there in the chat just said that a Dead Guy's production said that. Oh, the comic. He loved the comic. Nice.
Grazie. But I just thought the film took itself too seriously. It's named Cowboys and Aliens. Like, what's
right? Exactly.
What are we doing here?
Exactly.
It was just funny because in 2001, the thing I said no to, they in 2011, 10 years later, they were just stuck on that and they just did that. And I was like, all right, well,
Hey, at least it
nowhere to find me.
At least it's something to have on your
resume. Wikipedia page.
Exactly. At least it has something to have on your resume. At least.
I got a lot of con inventions in 2011. Con invitations when I was in 2011 when I was.
Yep. When that movie was coming out, and
so
at least you have somebody to say that as Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde, Sam Rockwell, like a bunch of big names involved. So at least you can't deny.
Oh, and Steven Spielberg was co-producing it, and the whole DreamWorks team. There's a lot of talent going on there.
Exactly.
Jon Favreau obviously is no slouch.
Exactly, and
but if only they'd spoken to me first, Robert.
Obviously, and then apparently they did an exclusive webcomic sequel, but with someone named Alana Jolie Abbott, whoever that is.
Yes, that sounds right. And my good buddy Dennis Calero did a prologue to it. That was cool. We did X-Men Noir together. We did Assassin's Creed comics together.
You did X-Men Noir. Yeah, how was working on that? That was another thing I was going to bring up. The X-Men Noir stuff. Those noir projects were very interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. Sold really well. It was a murder. It's probably my first published murder mystery when you think about it.
Right.
Who killed Jean Grey?
And then you did a follow-up.
And we did a sequel. Yeah, we did a sequel called Mark of Cain. That was super fun. But I really enjoyed doing that. My editor, Nate Cosby, came with the idea that none of the X-Men had superpowers. It was just the personalities themselves. And I sort of ran with that. And
that's an interesting idea. That's a very clever idea to put that limitation on, saying don't focus on the superpowers, focus on the personalities. And let's be honest, the powers, like someone like Spider-Man, you could get away with.
Sure.
But the X-Men, that would break the noir if you went with many of their powers. Like,
well, yeah, it would be kind of like, what's the how does this different? How is this not just a
exactly? It's just set in the noir, but it's not very noir-ish. I mean, like I said, I'm looking at all the other ones. I remember Iron Man Noir. That was one of Scott Snyder's big introductory works, and all that.
That's right. He actually sent me a
copy, stuff about it.
Yeah, we was sort of giving him advice. Nice guy.
Nice. Speaking of which, so what were there ever any big standout, like interactions you've had with other creators, like any Greg Pak stories you want to share, or anything else you want to say, like, hey, I met that guy?
I don't have any Greg Pak stories you'd want me to tell you.
You go. I don't care.
I loved meeting some of the nicest people I met were people, sort of the generation before me. So I really enjoyed when I did G.I. Joe #1. I got to hang out at a signing with Larry Hama and spent a lot of time.
You did G.I. Joe. Yeah.
He is the sweetest guy. At the time I accepted the G.I. Joe job, no one told me that Larry himself was doing a G.I. Joe title, which is kind of like competing with Jesus at a Jesus convention.
Oh yeah, that was all going on at the same time. Yeah.
And I ended up, that was a fun job for a year, and then I kind of ended up backing away because you get this arrogance that you can do anything, and then you're like, I can make this interesting. Then you find out you're not interested in several issues, and then you're like, I've made a terrible mistake.
Right.
That's right. Howard Chaykin is a lovely, lovely guy. Just a just a great conversationalist. Knows everything about everything, and is just the sweetest man, and so much fun to hang out with.
Yep.
Geez. Oh, who's the nicest guy? And I just went to Athens, Greece.
Ooh.
And basically spent a weekend with him. Is Frank Whiteley?
Oh yes.
He's the nicest guy.
Met him before.
Brilliant artist.
All-Star Superman, of course.
Lovely. Yep. And that was a big treat. That's the most recent
right.
Creator that I really was like, you're awesome
Mm-hmm.
on every level.
Right. But I did brought Greg Pak because of your stuff with Hercules and all that. I was just wondering, Thea Raymond. I was wondering about that. Like, how was that working with him anyway? What kind of guy is he?
He's great.
Yep, great guy. Yep.
I mean, I'm working with him right now, so I can't really say anything bad with him.
I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you to stick me any dirt. I'm not asking you to give me any
toenails. They're disgusting. Disgusting.
I wasn't asking for any dirt. I was just saying in general.
I'm not sure I've ever seen his bare feet, so toenails or not. No, he's a lovely dude. We're very good friends. See each other quite a bit outside of work. I
just realized we missed something we talked about off screen, but we didn't talk about here. We only got a few minutes left, but bring it up.
Yes.
We talked about this off screen. I realized, crap, we didn't talk about this on the screen.
Yes, another weirdo character I got assigned to.
Yep. One that you helped develop beyond just, you gave her the name and all that. But how was that working on it? And how much of this was like your idea? How much of this was assigned to you? Like, how much of it were you told, like, what to come up with, like, what the plot was, and how much of it was just simple, or was it a case of, here's the character, do something with her?
Well, so Lyra, who is unlike Scorpion, the actual daughter of Bruce Banner
and Sundra.
Sundra,
for correction, and to clarify, Sundra took a sample of spit from the Hulk and developed it that way. They didn't do it.
She's a test tube baby.
Yep.
Was created in a one shot.
Raging Thunder, yes.
Raging Thunder, in which Hulk met Thundra and had DNA taken from him.
Yep.
She didn't have a name. Right. And Thundra is like, for those of you who don't know, Thundra is a Fantastic Four character created by Roy Thomas as like a parody of like Wonder Woman to a certain degree.
To a degree, yeah.
And she lives in a post-apocalyptic future where men and women are fighting each other.
I noticed. That was one thing I noticed when going over this, when Bianca and I went over this. We were noticing how much this was, the whole idea of just how extreme feminism it is. I'm like, oh boy, nowadays, if this was done now, I'm positive you would have people, without reading it, assuming it. And it's like, guys, actually read the thing. It's not what you think.
Right. And I don't think they would let a man write that now, and they probably shouldn't have let me do it in 2010.
I think you did a good job.
But no, I really enjoyed the world and building it out, and basically Lyra is a very inside baseball nerd comic reference. Thundra's world was originally created by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. as a non-Marvel universe tale, but it was in this magazine called Savage Tales. It's in the Superhero Women. If you are an aficionado of Origin of Marvel Comics, Son of Origins, Bring on the Bad Guys, and all these Fireside books, I believe Superwoman was the last one, and that story's in it. And the main character of that story is named Lyra, and that is why Lyra, Savage She-Hulk. Now, I wanted and thought finally I was being given my own monthly title.
Oh no, it ended up being a limited series.
Well, no, they told me I was going to write. Who I wanted to write was Jennifer Walters, who I'm a big fan of. And they were like,
"Oh, and you did great with her."
You know what? We can't get Jennifer Walters to sell. We're gonna give this She-Hulk title.
Didn't Dan Slott's run happen around this point?
Yeah, his run had been canceled a long time ago.
Oh, and then you have Peter David's run, and then it wrapped up. You're right.
And I guess that's right. I guess that would have been the tail end of the Dan Slott run. Would have been me following Peter David, but instead, so because Incredible Hercules was so wildly successful, there was a lot of like, let's give different characters, titles. You may recall Black Panther was Daredevil, or was in Daredevil for a while.
Oh yes, that was Black Panther, the Man Without Fear.
So
awesome Jen moment there.
But so I ended up putting Jen in the Lyra series anyway. But it was a really fun book. She's super fun to write. I had a super fun blast writing her, a backup of her.
Oh yeah, I didn't grab them, but yeah, they were in
in
from
the bag of
Hulk.
Incredible Hulks.
Yep. Well, it wasn't Incredible Hulks yet. It was just Incredible Hulk when Banner
Oh
was
yeah,
with.
it was just
Yeah, it was. It didn't become Hulks yet, but yeah, I love this stuff. And
it was fun.
where the idea of the angrier she gets, the weaker she gets come from?
I was just being contrarian. I mean, I wanted to make her different than I do yoga. I do a lot of I'm very much into, from thanks to action philosophers in college, into Zen Buddhism. So I like the idea of strength coming from calm rather than anger. But even as I was writing it, I was like, this is a little too heady. I sort of get the simplicity of, you wouldn't like to see me when I'm angry.
Yep.
But
I think this was the Paul Tobin book you had told me about before. I think they put it as a backup.
I did a Scorpion story, actually, come to think of it.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. They put those in there, it looks like, to pad it out, it looks like.
Mark tried to make people like Scorpion. I appreciated it. But
oh, yeah. And at least she's not dead, at least.
Not yet.
Knock on wood. But now,
hey, I got a nice check from her being in the Marvel MODOK show. So
exactly. But okay, how would the check from Monica appearing in the Avengers game?
That's a whole other thing.
Okay,
we won't get into that.
Okay, fair enough. I thought it'd be funny to ask. Sorry, but yeah, because Monica, that was another thing we talked about off screen. That became one of your most reused characters that you had created.
Yeah, Carmella's mother. Yeah.
Yeah, because basically, besides when you can't use MODOK because he's, a giant head. She seems to be the only other face for AIM, isn't she?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I kind of lucked out there, because the scientist supreme had always been just some generic, doofus in a beekeeper outfit, and I was like, and maybe a cape to distinguish him as being scientist supreme. And I was like, let's
make it a woman and all that, and
Well, A, let's make her a woman, and B, let's see her face.
Exactly.
Give her a name. Let's make her a person.
Exactly. Although I did notice at the end of Greg Pak's Incredible Hulks, he then made her hair white and everything, which I always found that weird, but and all that.
I didn't know that. I'll yell at him about that.
It's all right, but yeah. So I think that's about. I think I'm running dry on what to talk about here. But again, Fred, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast having you. Keep up the great work.
And remember, Action Philosophers.
Exactly.
Live on Kickstarter through February 23rd.
In the description, it's in the chat. All of you guys, check it out. Back it. I am definitely going to back it, especially with the money I was just donated. I am definitely going to put some of that into that.
Reinvested into the comics.
Exactly. You guys helped me and be able to back it. So, yeah. Thank you, all of you guys, for showing up, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.
Cool. Thanks, man.